Welcome back to the Mike Wu Experiment. Today, I'm here to drop my complete review of Harvestella for the Nintendo Switch. Now, I think of this game a bit like a JRPG stapled to a Harvest Moon game. I want to talk a little bit about, how this differs from your average farming simulator. I mean, essentially, it has a lot of the same qualities. There's a box that you drop in your spoils from the crops and from various gathering and other things that you want to sell into a box, and they magically are whisked away and you're paid in the morning, similar to Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon. So that that kind of element is there. Also, there's an element of Rune Factory, if you guys have ever played Rune Factory, and that comes in with the combat. And it's just way more story. The big thing that really appealed to me with Harvestella was, Harvest Moon will have a, kind of a story of seasons. They have a little bit of a story, but it doesn't pull you in, where the story in Harvestella has that square, soft magic. So you're really getting that, the crystals. There's a whole crystals type storyline. There's a whole engaging characters that you meet and join your group, and surprising types of characters that you meet along the way. I'm now going to take a few minutes to talk about the soundtrack of Harvestella. The soundtrack is by someone named Go Shina, and I highly recommend, listening to this soundtrack. The only downside is you sit there and listen to it while the game is running. You will tick off time, because time doesn't really happen when you do things as much. It does sometimes, but it also just keeps moving. So time doesn't, it's always perpetual as you're walking, as you're, weeding something off the ground, as you're, farming a crop. Time is constantly moving. So if you're just sitting there listening to music, it can catch up with you. So amazing music. You have to just listen to it for yourself. You can hear it in the background here. Also, another amazing thing about Harvestella is the combat. Now, Rune Factory is another game that has really good combat. It's very similar to that. It's simple. We're not going to be rivaling Elden Ring or anything like that, but there is a job system that I really liked and thoroughly enjoyed. You can change, from, warrior type to mage type. They have different, amazing, excellent outfits that you have too, which is so cool. To have access to all these different outfits through a job change, kind of like your Final Fantasy XI or Final Fantasy XIV. There are even Baldur's Gate style elements where you have to do kind of a roll. They don't show the dice or anything, but it'll describe something to you, like how Baldur's Gate does. You come across a field of gray and there's a mist in a chest. Do you reach over to grab the chest? And then essentially you will make that, reach over to grab that chest, and then you'll make a roll, and either you'll succeed or you'll fail. And I was able to see what happened with both. And so, you don't just always succeed. When it says, do you wish to take a chance? There is a chance there. So that's another really cool element that I have not seen in a Harvest Moon style game that's really unique. With all that said, the game itself is pretty pedestrian in the sim department. It's not trying to be better than Harvest Moon at being a sim, or better than Story of Seasons at being a sim, or better than Rune Factory at being a sim. It's more just trying to be a Square Enix game, like I said, with farming kind of built into it. I would also say another game to compare it to would be Sakura, Rice and Rain. Very similar to that, where it's kind of light farming and more story. So if you like that game, make sure and check out this game, because I think they're very similar. In addition to the usual Square magic that this game oozes, there is the push and pull of a roguelite game, as you're trying to explore caverns and not run out of time and end up passed out by your front door. The exploring is pretty decent. The areas are cordoned off. Think old school Phantasy Star Online, where, you're walking around these corridors. It doesn't really open up too much. There is this really interesting world map too that, goes dark at night. There's day-night cycles. It'll go dark when it's at night, and the overworld map will be lit up during the day, and all of these different elements. So, this game does take a lot of cues. You can tell there's a little bit of Octopath Traveler sprinkled in here. Overall, this game was given a lot of love, and I think it was kind of bashed by the critics. It only sits at 73 on Metacritic, which is better than the fan response, which is like a 4.3. I was looking through a lot of the negative Metacritic scores, and it really is just like everybody saying, well, I like this game better, or I like that game better, or, etc. They were really expecting maybe a full sim like Rune Factory or Harvest Moon. It's not that. It's more of like an Atelier game or like a blend of everything. You've got some crafting, you've got some farming, you've got some gathering, but it's not overwhelming as far as how much there is to do, and that may be part of why they don't like it. They like that maxing, that micromanagement. There's a little bit less of that, and it appeals to me, but I could see why the users wouldn't like it. But at the same time, I don't really agree with just giving a game a review bomb because it's not your game of choice, and that seems to be what happened with Harvestella. So I'm really happy to have done this review because I kind of want to squash some of these misnomers about this game. With that being said, I want to summarize my thoughts on this game. Now, my rating for this game, Harvestella on the Nintendo Switch, the Switch port specifically, is an 8 out of 10. It's a great port. I want to highlight some key things that I really enjoyed. First, the port is really good. It runs pretty well. In some parts I was like, man, this frame rate's really solid. And in other parts I was like, it's a little chuggy here and there. That's to be expected with the Switch. Another thing that they did that I didn't really love was they actually, like, the inn, for example, the floor 2 is separated by one of these Squaresoft lines, I call them, with the dots. So it's like you have to zone into the second floor from the first floor, and it's just, I don't know, it's cuts that you make to get it on the Switch, but you start to get annoyed with that sort of thing. Graphics and sound is top notch in this game. I feel like both of those two categories, they did 10 out of 10 to me. They did the best they could with the Switch. There are some really ooh and ah moments, and to pull that off on the Switch is really a gold star for them indeed. And the soundtrack is another gold star for them. I did discuss that earlier, but I thought that was amazing. Again, as the reviews have indicated, and I will tell you as well, the farming is not the star here. So if you're expecting it to be the star, get a different game. But the story is the star with some farming to keep you kind of going along. And the farming is just perfect for me. I understand that may not be true for everybody else. They want more farming. I've been looking for a game like this, but every time I try like Story of Seasons, it's too much of the grind on farming. This is more like Atelier Rising, or Atelier Ryza, where it's like, yes, you do some of that, but it's mostly gathering and fighting and then coming back and crafting. And you do some, so it's a little bit of everything. To me, that's a great balance. Sprinkled with some Squaresoft magic that you just can't go wrong with the Squaresoft magic. And it's definitely felt in this game. So I think this is an underrated game. This game, one more thing I want to talk about is the post-game, which is basically just the game continues. You get 31 days instead of 15 days. For your overall story. The quests unlock as you go with relationship quests at the end of the post game, and there's that well you can go down at the end. So I did want to talk about that as well. Lastly, I also wanted to mention this game is on sale for 50% off of its regular price of $59.99 in the eShop for a whopping $29.99. That's amazing savings. I highly recommend this game for $29.99. You must act, though, by January 4th. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I hope y'all are having a Harvestella day.